Howdy, howdy, folks. Once again, this is Donnie coming at you with another Linux security report. And this time we have a report here at zdnet.com from 4 April 2017. Linux-based Tizen, or Tizen, I don't know. But anyway, critical bugs leave most Samsung smart TVs open to attack. And this is something that was discovered by an independent researcher. And this is something that can affect every Samsung device that's running this Tizen version of Linux. So almost every Samsung smart TV set sold in the past 2 years is vulnerable to hackers, according to independent Israeli security researcher Aminai Niederman. He has found dozens of vulnerabilities while studying Linux-based Tizen, the operating system that powers the devices. So some of the software bugs felt like 2005, he said, arguing that the OS hasn't been designed with security in mind and isn't up to any modern standards. I've found over 40 different vulnerabilities in Tizen. Almost every system app is vulnerable, Niederman said. And it goes on to say about how his research is one of the first to tackle the security of Tizen, which is an open source operating system developed by Samsung together with Intel and several other companies in an effort to become less dependent upon Google's Android. And he was able to hack into a Samsung smart TV by using one of the critical flaws he found in the Tizen App Store, or the Tizen Store app rather, an equivalent of Apple's iTunes or Google's Play Stores. The app is full of privileges. Full of privileges? Interesting way to word things. But anyway, apparently it has very, very high privileges already allowed to the user because it allows the installation of other apps on the device. And by using this vulnerability, an attacker could place malicious code on the smart TV to control it. Over the past 2 years, several reports of smart TVs spying on their users have emerged. Okay, and of course we saw this in the Wikileaks dump that came about just a few weeks ago, where it was revealed that the CIA and NSA were able to implant malware on a Samsung television in order to turn it into a spying device. It would go into a false off mode, a false power off mode, and it would still be listening to the people's conversations and sending those conversations back to the CIA or NSA or whoever was handling this, right? But at the time, according to these documents, somebody would have to actually break into a person's house and insert a USB memory stick into the USB port on that television to load the malware that way. Well, here we're seeing that the attackers can just plant some sort of malware into this Tizen Store and take control of the smart televisions that way. Okay? So has the CIA, has the NSA been doing things that way as well? Well, we don't know. But we go on to see Tizen OS runs on 21 million smart TV sets. It's also present on Samsung Z1, Z2, and Z3 smartphones sold mainly in India, on the Gear smartwatches and wearables, several NX cameras, in-vehicle infotainment systems, and even on-home appliances, including an air conditioner, a vacuum cleaner, a washing machine, and a refrigerator. Seriously? Why does a vacuum cleaner or a washing machine need to be connected to the internet? Okay? All right, I can kind of understand an air conditioner. Yeah, you control your air conditioning while you're away, turn it back on before you get home from work. I can kind of understand that. Refrigerator, yeah, that's kind of questionable. But why? A vacuum cleaner? I don't know. I decided to start and research Tizen because it seemed that nobody was doing it, Niederman said. And he showed during the presentation that the Tizen ecosystem is expanding, with the company encouraging developers to build apps for it and adding more infrastructure to support the planned growth of the user community around the OS. It looks like Samsung is planning something big for Tizen, Needleman said. There's a great chance that we'll see next year's Galaxy S9 coming with Tizen, and the OS is not mature enough. And he said he had emailed Samsung several months ago to notify about the vulnerabilities, but hasn't heard back. He has only been contacted when the South Korean company heard about his talk. And this is one of the problems with being a security bug hunter. To be responsible, you want to contact the vendor first before you make the vulnerabilities public. You want to give the vendor a chance to fix the vulnerabilities before the bad guys know about them. But there are vendors who don't see any real importance in getting these security bugs fixed. So the basic protocol anymore is, contact the vendors. Say, look, here is the bug. Here is why your product is vulnerable to security problems. Give them a chance to get it fixed. If they don't get it fixed within a reasonable amount of time, then make it public. So that's the protocol, and that's what this guy is doing. So Samsung told ZDNet that it will analyze the Israeli researchers' findings. We are fully committed to cooperating with Mr. Niederman to mitigate any potential vulnerabilities, a Samsung spokesman said. Through our Smart TV Bug Bounty program, Samsung is committed to working with security experts around the world to mitigate security risks. Okay? And then over at Fuzzilla, we see another article about the same thing. Tizen is a hacker's dream. And the Team Apple Press is doing its best. And that's the way the writers here at Fuzzilla always refer to Apple, the Apple Press, the Team Apple Press, right? Because in their opinion, the Apple Press are nothing but fanboys, right? So anyway, the Team Apple Press is doing its best to dig up negative stories about Samsung lately after the outfit released a phone which is much better and cheaper than the iPhone 7. However, it seems to have a point about Samsung's new operating system. To be fair, Tizen's not found in the Galaxy 8, so the enthusiasm which the Tame Apple Press is responding to the story is probably a little bit desperate, but it is found in Samsung TVs and a couple of low-cost phones. Samsung has long sought to reduce its reliance on Google and Android to run its Galaxy smartphones and tablets and other devices. So, it already has Tizen running on some 30 million smart TVs, as well as Samsung Gear smartwatches, and in some Samsung phones in a limited number of countries like Russia, India, and Bangladesh. And the company plans to have 10 million Tizen phones in the market this year. And then it would announced earlier that Tizen would be the operating system on its new line of smart washing machines and refrigerators too. Again, why? Okay, I throw my clothes into a washing machine and I turn it on, let it fill with water, and let it do its thing. Why do I need my washing machine connected to the internet? I don't know. So anyway, according to Israeli researcher Amihai Niederman, and I have no idea if I'm pronouncing that name correctly. If I'm not, I apologize to Mr. Niederman. But anyway, it's the worst code he has ever seen. He found 40 unknown zero-day vulnerabilities. Zero-day vulnerabilities are vulnerabilities for which there is no remedy. There is still no fix for them. Okay? So, with 40 zero-day vulnerabilities, that's a lot of vulnerabilities. And everything you can do wrong there, they do it. You can see that nobody with any understanding of security looked at this code or wrote it. It's like taking an undergraduate and letting him program your software. Okay? And one security hole that was particularly critical, the Tizen Store app. Okay, so we already talked about that, right? So anyway, you can go on there and read. There's a few more technical details about it, but that's basically the gist of it, okay? So anyway, folks, if you have a Samsung television, well, I'm sorry for you, okay? And let me tell you, this is one of those times where I'm really glad that I don't own an operational, up-to-date television. Well, I do own a television that's operational, but the thing, it's an old cathode ray thing. It came from J.C. Penney's. My dad gave it to me years ago, and I had to buy an adapter for it to even be able to hook it up to my VCR, right? It's not even cable ready or anything. And so I don't do cable television, don't do satellite television. I've never bought a television in my life, and that's soon to be 60 years worth of life. Okay. So, and now I'm glad that I don't, and I also don't own a smartphone. I'm glad of that too. Anyway, folks, that's my rant. That is my security rant. And yeah, free open source software, it is great. Okay. And it's great that the code is out there for people to be able to examine it and to be able to find these security holes. And that's one of the selling points, or that was one of the original selling points for open source, was so that you can have millions of eyes on that source code to find bugs. And so it's taken a while in this case. It's taken more years than it should have, but somebody finally did get around to examining this source code with this open source Linux-based Tizen. So anyway, that's all I got for the day. And I will have links to these two articles in the notes below the video. I do encourage you to go ahead and visit the links. When I present these videos about these articles, I don't mean to be taken away from the creators of these articles. So at least go ahead and click on them, give them their advertising revenue, and that way we can feel like we're kosher about it, okay? And but anyway, other than that, if you like the video, be sure to like and subscribe, and we will see you next time.